welcome to bonus episode number 14 of the Blooms and Barnacles podcast, where today we're not talking about Ulysses at all, but it's the second in our series on
Harry
Dubliners.
Potter.
On Dubliners. Well, you know, I guess if there's demand for it, we could read Harry Potter and talk about it. I really don't know what we would say about it that hasn't already been said.
Oh, we'd find something.
I don't want to find something. But we're here to talk about Dubliners, specifically the third and fourth stories in Joyce's collection of short stories, Araby and Eveline. I initially felt very ambitious and thought, we could do 3 stories because if you include After the Race, which is the 5th story up, they're all really short.
They are tiny.
They are tiny, but...
I went up to the inn and read all 3 just over a pint.
Aren't you special?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But here's the thing, and I feel like I can confide in you guys this because you're our special patrons. If I read, I think Eveline's like 7 or 8 page story, I could easily read 100 pages of research on a 7 to 8 page story. So the stories are much shorter, but the amount of reading I'm doing has the potential to balloon quite beyond that. I don't think I did quite that level of reading. Don't count my pages in my works cited. There is still a hefty amount of work, and I would rather do a really good discussion on 2 short stories than...
Flub 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or do 2 really well and flub a 3rd.
Oh, look, he's not writing any more stories, is he? So we might as well take our time.
Well, what do you mean?
To channel him.
No.
Ulysses, day 2.
So...
Bloom woke up with a massive hangover.
Oh, no. I don't want to read Ulysses Day 2. I'm sure that exists somewhere, that someone's written. I feel like I may have seen it, not read it, but seen it in existence. I'm not interested. It's just that's a fool's errand. That way lies madness. I don't want to talk about that because we're not talking about Ulysses today. We're talking about Dubliners.
Yes.
And we're going to talk first about Araby, a story that I've spent most of my adult life calling Araby. But where it's kind of like Araby, that sounds racist, so we're gonna move on from that. But it's Araby, which is also like kind of a racist pronunciation of Arabia.
Yeah.
Far off, mysterious Araby, where the spices flow and the women are mysterious.
Veils and mysterious.
Yeah. So it's Orientalism, one of our go-to themes. So you can insert a little air horn sound here. Fwah, 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 fwah. We did a whole episode in the regular feed about Orientalism. It is a theme we return to again and again, and we're going to return to it today. Can you tell the listeners real quick, refresh their memories, what happened in Araby?
A young man who has a crush on a young girl. I'm guessing from the age, behavior, they're in their teens, 14, 15, maybe. He never specifies.
Yeah.
But he has that kind of intensity and clumsiness that you would have at 14 or 15. Where as an adult look back and go, God, I just could have asked her out, and probably would have said yeah, and then you go back and go, you're an idiot. So and he's trying to buy her like a little token or something, and just the grief he has going through, and it's great because he describes the train journey, and I guess it's going across the Loop Line Bridge, the Butt Bridge, modern Tara Street Station. That sounds like. So it's heading north or south. Like
it would be south, I believe.
So he was heading south from the north side to this like market, where he was going to buy her something, but it was clearly too late. It sounds like it was starting to shut down, or the evening was getting on.
Why was he so late getting there?
His uncle was being a jerk.
In what way?
Wouldn't give him the money, or was giving them task work, and that was the kind of vibe I got.
He's trying to prevent him from going.
Doesn't want him to have the chance to go. So that's about it. And I'll tell you, the one thing I noticed while reading both of these stories, and I've noticed it in all of his stories, is this incredible sense of mystery. Like there's something unspoken, or there's something unsaid, or there's some genuine mystery going on in the background, and it's completely between the lines. Never spells it out. And it's why one of my major regrets is that Joyce never wrote books in the style of H.P. Lovecraft, because unlike Lovecraft, the joke about Lovecraft was he didn't describe his cosmic horrors and his monsters because he left it to the imagination of his readers, because they were better writers than he was. That's cruel, but maybe not necessarily unfair. But Joyce, if he had chosen to write these kind of stories, would have terrified people. Because he could do that sense of like a mystery behind the words without saying, there was a cosmic mystery lurking in the shadow. He was never that crude about it. And then when he came to like writing about, say, in Ulysses, specific body horror things, the dying mother coughing up green, and the drowned corpse with minnows coming out between the flies and the trousers because they've been eating his genitals. That, to an audience in the 1920s as an actual horror novel or a gothic romance or whatever, they would have been traumatized.
Sounds like fodder for one of your penny dreadfuls.
Indeed. Maybe my sequel to Ulysses, day 2. But no. But no, and it's there in these stories, and they're everyday commonplace stories. A boy's going to get his little girl he has a crush on, he's going to get her something, and you get the sense there's something's behind this, and I'm not smart enough to figure out what. And in all the stories, it's like, what's going on? There's something in the shadows, and he's not writing it, but it gives me anyway a sense of slight unease.
Do you remember the name of the literary device that would describe what you're talking about here with the unspoken things? The ellipsis. Literary ellipsis.
The ... Yeah.
Yes, but it can literally be that punctuation, but it can also just be, you have to listen to the notes he's not playing, man. Like your freeform jazz.
Nobody can listen to that. People just pretend.
All right, we'll call it Charlie Mingus.
Charlie Parker's going to come and get me. Yeah. I'm a Glenn Miller man myself. Music should sound like music.
Somebody told me because I played jazz music in high school, and somebody told me at that time that Charlie Parker had a plastic saxophone for a while because he sold his real one to buy cocaine. Typical high school rumors about Charlie Parker.
I think the rumor about Paganini was his violin was made from catgut, made from the intestines of one of his murdered lovers. These kind of stories go around for a while.
Well, okay. So let's talk about Araby. When does Araby take place?
Ooh. I'm assuming if it's autobiographical with Joyce, we're still talking about the 1890s.
Oh, good question. Is it? So yes, if we map it on the Joyce's life, he would have been 1890s. You use the word autobiographical, so I want to address that. There's nothing wrong with that. Yep. But do you think the story was autobiographical?
To me, it seemed like a memory, some kind of like, oh God, that was me as a stupid young man.
The Araby Bazaar was a real event. It took place in 1894. So Joyce would have been 12, roughly when that happened.
Was it a one-off?
It was a traveling bazaar. It, I believe, originated in London and went around to different parts of Britain and Ireland.
See, I didn't realize that. So I thought it was just like a regular thing that's like maybe one day a month, and they all get so he only had one shot to go there, and that was it.
Well, we'll talk about that. That's the way it's portrayed in the novel. So there are a lot of people who do think this is an autobiographical story in the way that an encounter is semi-biographical. Joyce did attend the Araby Bazaar. People remember seeing him there. It would have taken place south of the river. I think it was near Lansdowne Road, where it would have taken place, if that's helpful to you.
Yeah, the modern Aviva Sports Stadium would be near there. And there was still a stop on the Dart line, the railway line. And I'm sure that's the same line that was there back in the day.
We read that passage in the previous episode about James Joyce's younger brother Stanislaus, who's very close with, kind of weighed in on the autobiographical elements of an encounter. In the same passage in his book about his more famous brother called My Brother's Keeper, which is well worth reading if you haven't, he says of Araby that the house on North Richmond Street, where the initial part of the story takes place, is based on the Joyce's home on the same street. They live there for a bit, but the rest of the story is, in his words, pure fiction. Okay. So Joyce would have gone, he would have been young. There's no way to know if he was chasing, a girl. Do you remember the girl's name?
Oh, I forget.
She had no name. She was Mangan's sister.
Oh, okay.
He had his friend Mangan, and this is Mangan's sister. So I wanted to show you, I found this on, I think it's the Twitter account of the UCD archive. I should have written it down, I didn't. But this is a poster for Araby.
Admission 1 shilling, and it has the little minaret in the background. Araby in Dublin, and we have a Lawrence of Arabia type figure on a camel. Official catalogue, Grand Oriental Fete, May 14th to 19th, 1894, in aid of Jervis Street Hospital, still there. Brown and Nolan lithographers and typographers, Dublin. But it's a fine piece of work for the time.
We'll talk about the story in a minute. I just want to take a minute to focus on the historical event behind the story. It's sort of the Araby Bazaar in the story of Araby is depicted as being very small and dark and quiet and basically closing. Like, it was a one night affair. The real event would have been anything but. Like, it was nothing like that at all. And it was something that was so magnificent that it would have still been alive in the minds of Dubliners in 1905 when the story was first written, and then in 1914 when it was published as part of the full Dubliners collection.